Hello students, I am Dr. Krupa Rasne from Jain College of Engineering, Belgavi. I am going to deal with network and cyber security. This is the third revision of a video for the module 2. I continue to refer to the textbook William Stelling's Cryptography and Network Security Principles. So continuing with the revision of module 2, we have already seen pretty good privacy, and then we have also seen some SMIME and RFC 5322 and so forth. And in SMIME messages also we have covered a few topics like content types, MIME entity, and encrypting and decrypting of envelope data, signed data, clear sign. Now we will move on to request registration certificates only messages and a few other things in this, and it will also be followed by domain keys identified mail, and this will end the revision for module 2. Registration request. So the crux of any secure email system is the distribution of public or private key pairs and certification. The SBIM is very liberal about certification. There are public certifiers such as VeriSign and others that distribute certificates at various levels of security. So the first step would be for registration request. So a typically an application or user will apply to the registration authority for a public key certificate. The application, that is PKCS10 SMIME entity, is used for to transfer a certification request. So once the certification request is transferred, it also includes certification request info block followed by an identifier of the public key encryption algorithm followed by the signature of the certification request info block made using the sender's private key. The certification request info block includes a name of the certificate subject, the entity whose public key is to be certified, and a bit string representation of the user's public key. Email certificates are also known as SMIME certificates, and these are digital certificates that can be used to sign and encrypt email messages. So when you encrypt an email using an email certificate, only the person that you sent it to can decrypt and read the email. A message containing only certificates or a certificate revocation list CRL can be sent in response to a registration request. The message is an application PKCS7 MIME type subtype with a SMIME type parameter of degenerate. The steps involved are the same as those for creating a signed data message, except that there is no message content and the signer info field is empty. SMIME certificate processing. SMIME uses public key certificates that conform to version 3 of X509. As with the PGP model, SMIME managers and users must configure each client with a list of trusted keys and with certificate revocation list. That is, the responsibility is local for maintaining the certificates needed to verify incoming signatures and to encrypt outgoing messages. On the other hand, the certificates are signed by certification authorities. User agent role. In computing a user agent, it is nothing but a software that is acting on behalf of a user, such as a web browser that retrieves, renders, and facilitates end user interaction with web content. An SBIM user has several key management functions to perform, like they have, that is, key generation, registration, certificate, storage, retrieval. Now, what is this key generation? The user must be capable of generating separate Diffie-Hellman and DSS key pairs and should be capable of generating RSA key pairs. Each key pair must be protected in a secure fashion. A user agent should generate RSA key pairs with a length in the range of 768 to 1024 bits and must not generate a length of less than 512 bits. This is the requirement. Coming to registration, a user's public key must be registered with a certification authority in order to receive an X509 public key certificate. And third, the certificate storage and retrieval. A user requires access to the local list of certificates in order to verify incoming signatures and to encrypt outgoing messages. Such a list could be maintained by the user or by some local administrative entity on behalf of a number of users. Now, coming back to what all we have been doing so far. So, in this particular video, we have seen the request registration, certificates only message, SMIME certificate processing, and user agent rule. We'll be further very briefly looking into VeriSign certificates, digital IDs, and the VeriSign levels of security very briefly because this is a revision class. For more details, you can refer to my other video, which is module based videos that you can have a look at. VeriSign certificates. As I told you earlier, there are several companies that provide certification authority CA services. For example, Nortel has designed an enterprise CA solution and can provide SMIME support within an organization. There are a number of internet-based CAs including VeriSign, GTE and the US Portal services. So of these, the most widely used is the VeriSign CA service, which is a brief description of which we now provide. VeriSign provides a CA service that is intended to be compatible with SMIME and a variety of other applications. VeriSign issues X.509 certificates with the product name VeriSign Digital ID. Over a million consumer digital IDs has been issued to users of Netscape and Microsoft browsers. Next, moving into enhanced security services. There are these three enhanced security services have been proposed in an internet draft. The three services are the signed receipts, the security labels, secure mailing lists. Returning a signed receipt provides a proof of delivery to the originator of a message and allows the originator to demonstrate to the third party that the recipient received the message. So, confirmation. A security label is a set of security information regarding the sensitivity of the content that is protected by SMIME encapsulation. So it has different levels of security as we have discussed earlier. Next is the secure mailing list. So when a user sends a message to multiple recipients, an SMIME mailing list agent MLA can take a single incoming message, perform the recipient specific encryption for each recipient, and forward the message. So just reviewing what we have done through, this is pretty good privacy. We have covered and we have also covered SMIME now. This topic is covered and in this we have done this part of the topics. Next we'll be dealing with domain keys identified mail. In that there are some four subtopics that is internet mail architecture, email threads, DKIM strategy, DKIM functional flow. So what is DKIM? It stands for Domain Keys Identified Mail. And let us see how it is different from SPIME. So when an email is sent, it is cryptographically signed using a specification called Domain Keys Identified Mail. So DKIM is a proposed internet standard that is RFC 4871 and it has been widely adopted by a range of email providers, including corporations, government agencies, Gmail, Yahoo, and many internet service providers. So it's basically used at the providers level. Domain keys identified mail. So in this section, we'll provide an overview of DKIM. And to understand the operation of DKIM, it is useful to have a basic grasp of preliminary requirements, understanding of the Internet Mail Architecture, which is currently defined in RFC 5598. Then we look at the threats that DKIM is intended to address, and finally provide an overview of DKIM operation, that is these Internet Mail Architecture, email threats, DKIM strategy, and DKIM functional flow. So this is an important chapter for you to concentrate on, from even from exam point of view as well as knowledge point of view. So here we are looking into the modules and standardized protocols that is used in Internet Mail Architecture. So the Internet Mail Architecture basically consists of a messenger user agent MUA and the message handling service MHS, which is composed of message transfer agents MTA, a number of them. So MHS will accept a message from one of the users and delivers it to one or other MUA to MUA. These are virtual MUA to MUA exchange environment. So this architecture involves three types of interoperability. One is directly between the users. Messages must be formatted by the MUA on behalf of the message author so that the message can be displayed to the recipient by the destination MUA. So this is the destination MUA. There are also interoperability requirements between MUA and the MSH. So rules and regulations. So first, when a message is posted from MUA to MHS and later when it is delivered from MHS to the MUA, interoperability is required among even MTA components along the transfer path through the MHS. So here we are illustrating the key components of Internet Mail Architecture. So in this topic, that is domain key identified mail, we have dealt with the first part, Internet Mail Architecture. Now let us look into the email threads, that is RFC 4686 describes the threads being addressed by DKIM in terms of the characteristics, capabilities and location of potential attackers. After that, we'll be looking into the other two topics. Coming to the levels of threats, characteristics of RFC 4686. So the characteristics characterizes the range of attackers on a spectrum of three levels of attack. At the lower end attackers who simply want to send email that a recipient does not want to receive, this makes it difficult for the receiver to filter spam on the basis of originating address or domain. So it's a low level attack. At the next level are professional senders of bulk spam mail. These are generally the commercial enterprises and these send messages on behalf of a third party. They employ more comprehensive tools for attacks. The third, this is the most sophisticated and it is financially motivated senders of messages and they stand to receive substantial financial benefit such as from an email based fraud scheme. These attackers employ above mechanisms, these two mechanisms, and additionally may attack the internet infrastructure itself, that is, including DNS cache, poisoning attacks, and IP routing attacks. The capabilities of attackers in RFC 4686. So let us look at the capability of this particular thing. So RFC 4686 lists the following as capabilities that an attacker might have. So first, submit messages to MTAs and message submission agents MSAs at multiple locations in the internet. Construct arbitrary message header fields, including those claiming to be mailing list, senders, and other mail agents. Sign and message on behalf of domains under their control. generate substantial number of either unsigned or apparently signed messages that might be used to attempt a denial of service attack. And fifth, resend messages that may have been previously signed by the domain. Further, transmit messages using any envelope information desired, act as an authorized submitter for messages from a compromised computer, manipulation of IP routing. This could be used to submit messages from specific IP addresses or difficult to trace addresses, or to cause diversion of messages to a specific domain. So these are the capabilities of the attacker. Ninth, limited influence over portions of DNA using mechanisms such as cache poisoning. This might be used to influence message routing or to falsify advertisements of DNS based keys or signing practices. 10th, access to significant computing resources, for example, through the conscription of worm infected zombie computers. This could allow the bad actors to perform various types of brute force attacks. And 11th is the ability to eavesdrop an existing traffic, perhaps from a wireless network. Now, let us look at the location of RFC 4686. So, DKIM focuses primarily on attackers located outside of the administrative units of the claimed originator and the recipient. These administrative units frequently correspond to the protected portions of the network adjacent to the originator and recipient. It is in this area that the trust relationship required for authenticated message submission do not exist and do not scale adequately to be practical. Next, external bad actors are usually attempting to exploit the any-to-any nature of email that motivates most recipient MTAs to accept messages from anywhere for delivery to their local domain. Next, they may generate messages without signatures, with incorrect signatures, or with correct signatures from domains with little traceability. They may also pose as mailing list, greeting cards, or other agents that legitimately send or resend messages on behalf of others. So till now we have been looking into the email threats, and now we'll move on to DKIM strategies followed by DKIM functional flow. So DKIM strategies. DKIM, it is designed to provide an email authentication technique that is transparent to the end users. In essence, a user's email message is signed by a private key of the administrative domain from which the email originates. The signature covers all of the content of the message and some of the RFC 5322 message headers. So these are the DKIM strategies. At the receiving end, the MDA can access the corresponding public key via a DNS and verify the signature, thus authenticating that the message comes from the claimed administrative domain. Thus, mail that originates from somewhere else but claims to come from a given domain will not pass the authentication test and can be rejected. So this is much better strategy than earlier security schemes. This approach differs from that of SMIME and PGP, which use the originator's private key to sign the content of the message. Then what is the motivation for DKIM? The motivation for DKIM is based on the following reasoning. SMIME depends on both the sending and receiving users employing SMIME. For almost all users, the bulk of the incoming mail does not use SMIME, and the bulk of the mail the user wants to send is to recipients not using SMIME. SMIME signs only the message content. Thus, RFC 5322 header information concerning origin can be compromised. DKIM is not implemented in client programs, that is MUAs, and is therefore transparent to the users. The user need take no action. DKIM applies to all mail from cooperating domains. And fifth, DKIM allows good senders to prove that they did send a particular message and to prevent forgers from masquerading as good senders. Let us look at the example of DKIM deployment. So here are some of the terminologies that you may look into. DNS stands for Domain Name System. MDA stands for Mail Delivery Agent. MSA stands for Mail Submission Agent. MTA stands for Message Transfer Agent. MUA is the Message User Agent. So normally the mail originates from here, and that is message MUA, message user agent, and it is sent via SMTA to MSA. Now here there is a signature that happens, and later on with a private key, and later on it further moves to a MTA. Now there will be transmission from MTA to MTA using SMTA. Then when at the receiving end, when you are receiving, it will come to MDA, which will be verified using the DNS public key query response. And later on, at this particular mail gets delivered, and it is said to be very secured, and the correct message comes to from the correct person who has sent it. So now let us look at DKIM function. Provides a more detailed look at the elements of DKIM operation. So if you see at this flow diagram, basically has two parts, that is signing administrative management domain ADMD and the verifying ADMD, that is administrative management domain for verifying. Now signing is performed by an authorized module within the signing ADMD and user private information from a key store. Within the originating ADMT, this might be performed by MUA, MSA, or an MTA. The verifying, see if you see after this, once it is signed, it is sent through an internet, and at the receiving end, this is relay or delivery ADMD message sign. Now it starts to get verified. So verifying is performed by an authorized module within the verifying ADMD. Within a delivery ADMD, verifying might be performed using by MTA, MDA, or MUA at the receiving end. The module verifies the signature or determines whether a particular signature is required. Verifying the signature uses public information, okay, from the key store. If the signature passes, reputation information here is used to access the signer, and that information is passed to the message filter engine. If the signature fails or there is no signature using the author's domain, information about the signing practices related to the author can be retrieved from a remotely or from a locally, and this information is passed to the message filtering system. So this is the functional flow diagram of DKIM. So with this, we have come to the end of the module 2, and in this particular video, we have looked into the SMIME functionality, the messages, certificate processing, enhanced security services, and also we have looked into domain keys identified mail, wherein we have looked into the internet mail architecture, the email threads, the DKIM strategy, and the DKIM functional flow. So please feel free to ask any questions, and thank you.